The two men opened the doors. Edward was surprised. Inside the shed was a little tank engine. She was dusty, and her wheels were rusty. The two men told Edward that they were her driver and fireman. The engine was startled when she saw Edward.
Hello there, my name is Edward. What's your name?
It's alright. He's friendly.
My name is Doris. Nice to meet you, Edward.
Nice to meet you too. Tell me, how long have you been in that shed?
For some time.
Edward could tell that something was not quite right with Doris. Edward coupled up to Doris and set off. They met Sir Topham Hatt at Great Waterton.
Well now, Edward, who do we have here?
This is Doris, sir. I was wondering if she can work on this railway.
Of course she can work here, once she's clean and fixed. Take her to the steamworks at once.
Doris smiled broadly. So did Edward. Edward took Doris to the steamworks, where Victor, Kevin, and the workmen were waiting for them. It took several days to fix Doris, but at last she was good as new. Edward was waiting for her outside the steamworks.
Wow, you look wonderful, Doris. Wait till the other engines see you. Come on, there's an empty berth at Titmer's sheds. You can stay there tonight.
Thank you, Edward. You're so kind.
Edward and Doris set off for Tidmouth's sheds. But as they were chuffing down the line, Edward saw that Doris had a strange look on her face.
Are you alright?
Yes, I'm fine.
When they arrived at Tidmouth's sheds, Doris got a big welcome.
Hello, Doris. I'm Thomas.
Nice to meet you, Doris. I'm Percy.
Thank you for the welcome. Edward, are you sure I could use this berth?
Of course. Gordon won't be back for a few days.
It's nice to see another red engine. Although I'm not so fond of the purple stripes. You should have been given black stripes like me.
James!
It's alright. I don't mind the purple stripes.
Say, Doris, how many friends did you have on your old railway?
I didn't have any friends on my old railway.
The engines were shocked. They couldn't believe what they just heard.
Doris, I didn't mean to...
It's alright, Percy. It's quite alright.
Did something happen in your past?
Yes. It's not a nice story. I'm sure you don't want to hear it.
Everyone was quiet for a moment. At last, Thomas spoke up.
It's okay, Doris. You can tell us.
Doris took another deep breath and began her story. Doris was the smallest engine on her old railway. Her duties were to shunt trucks and coaches for the other engines. Sometimes she pulled small freight trains. The other engines were bigger than her and were very snobby, and they also showed little respect for her. Doris often worked with a dark gray Class 15 diesel engine named Zeke. Zeke was very rude and always found an opportunity to tease her.
Oh, what's wrong? Truck's too heavy for you?
Buzz off!
The controller Doris had wasn't friendly at all. He always spoke in a strict tone and never seemed to smile. One day, the controller gave a mighty stare to his engines.
Here are your jobs, so listen up. Ryan, you will work at the coal yard. Jake, you will work at the quarry. Tiffany, express duties as usual. Kyle, Russell and Morgan, you three will be pulling the locals. Zeki, you will be shunting with Doris.
Doris looked upset, but then the controller looked at her.
Doris, after you finish shunting, you need to take some slate trucks to the docks. Now then, before you leave, I want you to know that the track on the slope near the park is buckled. Each of you need to take care. Especially you, Doris. You made loads of mistakes for the past few years. Don't disappoint me.
Doris gulped while Zeke grinned. He had a devious plan. After Doris finished shunting, Zeke pulled up right next to her.
The controller wanted me to tell you that the track on the slope near the park is fixed.
That's great. Wait a minute. Are you sure that the track is fixed?
Of course I'm sure.
Come on, Doris. Let's get a move on.
Doris was coupled up to the trucks. She pushed with all of her might and set off. Zeke smirked with triumph. Doris was chuffing down the line. The slate trucks were heavy, but she pressed on. Soon she saw the slope near the park. She also saw some picnickers at the park.
Okay, let's charge at it.
Unfortunately, Doris and her crew were heading for trouble.
Oh no! The track isn't fixed! We have to slow down!
But it was too late. The slate trucks and Doris had toppled off the tracks. Doris's driver and fireman had jumped clear. Luckily, the picnickers witnessed the oncoming crash and got out of the way. Doris was on her side. She wasn't hurt, but she was rather cross. Morgan helped her back to the sheds, where the controller was waiting. He was red in the face.
Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable.
Sir,
Don't talk, I warned you. You disobeyed me. People could have been hurt or worse.
But sir,
Quiet, Doris. You are no use to this railway. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., Zeki will take you to the scrapyard.
What? Please, sir, anything but that!
My mind is made up.
He walked away while Doris's crew chased after him. In the evening, Doris's driver and fireman returned to the sheds.
You've come to say goodbye, huh?
Actually, Doris, we have some news for you. There's a ship heading to a place called the Island of Sodor. We made arrangements with the dock manager. You, your fireman, and I are getting out of here.
Doris smiled, but she stopped smiling when Zeke pulled up.
Enjoying your last hours, Doris?
Doris looked away and didn't answer.
Giving me the cold buffer, huh? Typical.
The ship will leave at 6 a.m. So we have to leave for the docks no later than 5:50.
But what about Zeke?
Don't worry, we'll be careful.
But Doris was worried. Her driver and fireman arrived at 5:40. Doris looked around. The other engines were still asleep. Her fire was burning nicely.
Okay, let's do this.
Doris set off for the docks. At first, things were going well, but then there was trouble.
Oi, you! Get back here!
Zeke has spotted us!
Doris hurried away. Zeke gnashed his teeth.
You wanna chase? Fine.
Zeke chased after Doris. Doris was going as fast as she could, but so was Zeke. He was determined to catch her.
Give up, Doris. You can't get away from me.
He's right. He's going to catch me.
Don't give up.
At that moment, Doris's driver spotted a signal box and called out to the signalman.
Change the points after we pass!
Oh no. No! Ah!
Zeke crashed through the buffers and crashed into a chicken house. He was covered in broken eggs.
I hate Mondays.
Yes! We're safe! Not yet. We have to get to the docks.
When they arrived at the docks, a crane loaded Doris onto the ship and set off for Sodor.
Whew. did it.
The ship sailed for many hours, but when it arrived at Brendam Docks, the dock workers were surprised to see Doris. Her driver and fireman told them the whole story. Once Doris was loaded, she and her crew set off to look for a shed. Eventually, they found one. After Doris reversed into the shed, it happened. Something had broken inside of her.
Well, what now?
We will leave you in this shed. But don't worry, we'll come every day and keep you company.
But where would you live?
Don't worry about us. We'll find some place to live.
And that was that. After Doris finished her story, she looked at the other engines. Their eyes were wide.
You poor engine! You've been through a lot!
That controller you had is a pathetic excuse of a controller.
Keep in mind, James, there are a lot more controllers just like him.
But you're in safe hands now.
You're right. I didn't see any diesels here, so this must be a diesel-free railway.
Well, about that.
Wait, there are diesels here?
Don't worry, some diesels are friendly.
It's getting late. We should call it a night.
And that's what they did. However, they didn't know that Diesel had been listening to the whole story and was starting to hatch a devious plan.